Hi, thanks for joining me for Plan Your Visit Lesson 7, Follow-Up Communication. All right, at this point, your guest has had their first visit to your church, and hopefully, with the help of the host, they had a great first visit. They got to meet some wonderful people. They had a good experience in your worship service. And now your hope is that they have a second visit, right? And then they become regular attenders and eventually members of your church. Well, your follow-up communication is going to have a big impact on whether they come back. Most churches, though, already have a follow-up system or process in place, whether it's a big automated system or it's a manual process that you follow for your existing guests. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail with this, but I'm just going to hit on a couple of tips that you can use specific to plan your visit. Okay? So the first thing that you're going to want to do is have your host text the guest the day after their visit. Again, this is it's a personal connection. Hopefully they've made a good connection from the service the day before, and so this is just a quick follow-up to say, hey man, it was great to meet you, and I hope you're coming back next Sunday, something like that. Well, in addition to that text, you're also going to want your church to email the guest the day after their visit to give them information about how to get better connected in the church, information about Bible studies, youth group, serving opportunities, whatever you got going on at your church. You want to send that in an email so that they have that in that form. Most of the time, churches have this as a part of their follow-up communication. If not, you can do this as a part of Plan Your Visit. All right, the third thing is plug them into your existing follow-up system. Again, I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail with that. Just hopefully you've got a system in place, but if not, this is a good time to rethink how you do follow-up with guests. All right, so that's it. One other thing to touch on, you are going to have a certain percentage of people who are going to fill out the Plan Your Visit form, but then not show up on that Sunday. So you should have a plan in place for how you're going to follow up with them. And what we recommend is that the host, who's already been communicating with them, that they text them the next day, just say, hey, we missed you, I missed you yesterday, is everything okay? Would you like to plan your visit for next Sunday? And that way it's not, you want it to be friendly, maybe something came up, give them the opportunity to respond back. And again, you want this text to have a question in it so that the person responds back to them. All right, so that is your follow-up communication. It should be pretty simple, especially if you have a follow-up system in place. And now that in our course here, now that we've already talked through your pre-visit communication, the hosted visit, and the follow-up communication, and we didn't have any action steps after the last couple of lessons, in this lesson, we're finally at the point where we can start to put the plan in place. And so I do have a bunch of follow-up or a bunch of action steps for you to do at this point in the process. All right, you ready to see them? All right, first, you want to determine who your Plan Your Visit coordinator is going to be. It might be you, the person that I'm talking to right now is the communication director. But it should be a person who checks their email very regularly, at least once a day, better if it's multiple times a day. Next, you're going to want to create some sort of a logging system for your guests. If you already have something like this built into your church management system, that's fine. It's great to use that. If not, we will provide you with an example of a Google spreadsheet that you and your church can use to log your Plan Your Visit guests and information about them. This is going to be really helpful because, as we talked about earlier, at the end of the year, you want to be able to look at your Plan Your Visit guests, see how effective it was, see what forms of outreach led to the most people visiting your church, and so forth. So keep a log of everybody who comes to visit. Number 3 is to create the Plan Your Visit host training document. And this is something where we will provide in the notes an example that you can use, but you're going to want to take that example and then customize it for your church. We mentioned in lesson 5, the pre-visit communication, we had examples of the scripts you can use for calls and texts and things like that. So you'll want to customize that. Anything else you want to add or remove from the process, you do that. And then this is a training document that you'll go over with your hosts, and you'll give to your hosts so that they can refer to it in the future. And I recommend giving people doing your host training document in Google Docs, because this way you can send people a link via email or text, and then you can also update the training document. You can do it online, and it will always be up to date for your hosts. So that's your third action step. Number 4 is to recruit hosts. If you don't have any hosts right now, and if you don't have a significant greeting team, you'll want to recruit. And this is a great opportunity to cast vision in your church for Plan Your Visit and for outreach in general, to reaching people in your community with the gospel and giving them the opportunity to connect with your church in community. So recruit some hosts. That's action step number 4. Number 5 is, once you have your host team, to do a quick training with them. Go over that host training document with them. I've done this with the host team at my church. It's really just a quick 15 to 20 minute training after a service, and it's pretty simple. Number 6, organize a host schedule. So you're going to want to have hosts available each Sunday, and you're going to need to figure out how to do that. So this is going to depend a lot on the size of your church, the number of hosts that you get, and so forth. So you may have, for example, if you have a greeting team where you have people signed up for certain Sundays, you may want to just have the hosts be from the greeting team. Just make sure that anytime you have a guest visiting, that you have at least one person for each guest, plus enough people then to be standing at the door for unplanned visitors. So as far as organizing your host schedule, you'll need to figure that out with your church. I'll say that at my church, what we're doing is we are having hosts and greeters sign up for a particular Sunday each month. So we have a team that's first Sunday, a team that's second Sunday, third Sunday, fourth Sunday, and that way people know that they know exactly when they're going to serve. And then, if somebody's out and you need somebody to fill in, you can take care of that too. But that's just a suggestion in terms of the host schedule. And 7, last but not least, we talked a little bit about follow-up systems and processes, but this is a good time to review your follow-up system and process. If you don't have one, it's time to develop it. But even if you do, take a look at it and make sure it's up to date and that it's effective. So those are your action steps. I know it's a lot of them, but I've given you a break on the last few where you haven't had any action steps at all, and now you can go to town on implementing a lot of the things that you've learned about Plan Your Visit and customizing it for your church. So thanks for watching, and I will be praying for you as you implement these action steps.